1310 The Ticket, George DeJohn, Train Station Fitness Show. If you saw my Facebook page during the week, you'll notice a couple of things that happened. Number one, I deleted an email that was associated with my, my YouTube account, and it's an email I never used, and I lost 407 videos, plus all my Google Analytics. So, if you're looking for any of the videos that are past shows, I'll have to promote this a couple of times. Go to 21daybodymakeover.com, C-O-M, couldn't put the dot in there. That's the new channel where all the videos will be loaded. And also, during the week, I promoted whether you're having trouble fitting in your new bathing suit this year from last year that you did fit into, or you're feeling a little anxious, seemingly for no reason, there's just nothing really wrong in your life, you're feeling tired during the day, you're having trouble sleeping at night, and I asked the question, what is the one supplement that can counteract all of these issues? Fatigue, constipation, anxiety, cramps, hormone imbalance, insomnia, and so on. So I have Dr. Webster next to me. Young man, good to see you.
George, great to be here.
And I think you should share some of the benefits people can experience if they took this supplement. And it's a cheap supplement, and we'll tell you what that is coming up here in a little bit. But go ahead.
Well, this single nutrient is required to make every single hormone in the body, George. So testosterone, insulin, cortisol, growth hormone, estrogen, every single hormone in the body requires this single nutrient to be made and to bind to the cells so that it can do its job. So it's very diverse in its function. Every single neurotransmitter also requires it. Neurotransmitters are things like serotonin. Gives you this happy, normal mood. If you're low in serotonin, you tend to be depressed, you tend to be blue, sometimes you have increased pain, sometimes you have increased sugar cravings if you don't have enough serotonin. Dopamine, GABA, all these things help you move, help you function normally, help you think properly, help you sleep normally. This single nutrient is required for all those things. It's required for your muscles to be able to relax. If your skeletal muscles can't relax, you'll get cramps, you'll get Charlie horses, you'll get pain in your muscles, a lot of tension like in your shoulders. You know those people that are always like, oh, I rub my shoulders are so tense. Sometimes it might just be because they can't relax those muscles because of a deficiency in this particular nutrient. And when they're
getting a massage, the massage tends to hurt.
More painful because their muscles can't relax.
Right.
Exactly. If the cardiac muscle can't relax, sometimes they'll have arrhythmias, or sometimes their heart might just start racing for no good reason. Could be because of this single nutrient.
So if you're having trouble understanding why your efforts of exercise and eating well are going in vain, it may be due to this one single nutrient. What is it? Is it expensive? And how much do you take? We'll talk about that coming up next with Dr. Webster on the Train Station Fitness Show. 704 Sports Radio 1310 The Ticket.
The Ticket.
711 Sports Radio 1310 The Ticket. George DeJohn and Dr. Jeremy Webster in the studio. We're talking about a nutrient today that is responsible for so many responses in the body that if you didn't have it, you'd be in a whole hell of a lot of trouble. Magnesium.
Magnesium's the key.
Magnesium is the key. However, one of the things that you brought to my attention earlier, and I think it's important for people to know this, is that there's a potential for some of these other symptoms that we discussed earlier. If you're deficient in magnesium, you may experience anxiety, fatigue, constipation, insomnia, hormonal imbalance, all those things. But that can also be caused by other nutrients. When I say nutrient, I'll say coffee.
Yeah.
Right? To some respect. So let's get into some of the benefits of magnesium, and we'll discuss later the type of magnesium, how much magnesium you take. Is one brand better than another? Okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we mentioned hormones. Got to have magnesium for every hormone, every neurotransmitter, which is your brain chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine, which is adrenaline, on and on and on. Your muscles, I mentioned skeletal muscles and cardiac muscle, also smooth muscles. Smooth muscles line your blood vessels, and they line your glands, like your sweat glands. If you don't have enough magnesium, those smooth muscles can't relax. So if they can't relax, your blood vessels stay overly stiff. They can't expand for extra blood volume. So that could be the underlying cause of high blood pressure. Just as something as simple as a magnesium deficiency could be the reason why so many people have high blood pressure. Now again, this is one of those things where we have to be clear that I'm not saying that magnesium deficiency causes all high blood pressure. I'm just saying it could be the cause of your high blood pressure.
Like the doctor I had on last week, the medical doctor discussing his book, The Sobering Truth. He mentioned all alcohol can contribute to cancer. But the way he was stating it is that it causes cancer. And I stuck up for people who drink. And he said, well, and then he changed his tune because he didn't say contributes in the beginning. He was saying causes. Look at the studies and so forth. And then he changed his tune, so to speak, where he said can contribute to.
Yeah, and maybe it does cause it. But that doesn't mean it's the only thing that can cause it.
Right.
Think of some of the other toxic chemicals that are out there
Right.
that could directly cause it, even if you never had a sip of alcohol in your life. Think of smoking cigarettes. They can cause it, but you don't have to smoke to get cancer. So there's a lot of things that could cause it. And that's what I'm trying to say here is a severe magnesium deficiency can cause high blood pressure just by itself. But there's a lot of other things that could cause high blood pressure even if you don't have magnesium. So let's just know that it's important. If you don't have enough magnesium, the smooth muscles around your sweat glands can't relax, so you might sweat excessively. Didn't you have a guy on a few weeks ago
Yeah.
that was talking about excessive sweat? Did he talk about magnesium?
No, it was Dr. Maris. He's a dermatologist. I don't know that he's going to know about magnesium to that extent.
Okay. Well, I almost called in. I wasn't able to listen to the show, unfortunately. But I just
Well,
want to
go
make
ahead,
that clear.
because there's a couple of people I know that deal with this, and maybe they don't have enough magnesium.
Well, you got to rule it out at least. I
Right.
mean, that's the first thing you should rule
Right.
out on almost any of these things because it's so easy. Neurological function. For your brain to work, for any of your nerves to work, you have to have magnesium.
Now, what do you mean work? I'm sure there are a lot of people
Literally
in an
work.
office today who don't eat well, they have a horrible diet, but they're successful. You see people they're sitting behind a desk, they're a boss of many people, and they wind up being successful. Are they just pushing through by being just persevering and using their mind to get through a day? And is that enough?
To some extent, yes. When I say magnesium deficiency, magnesium is required for brain function.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Every single cell requires it. No one is so deficient that they don't have any magnesium. Everybody has magnesium. If you don't have any magnesium, you're dead, period. So everybody has some. If you don't have enough to be optimal, your brain isn't going to function optimally because all of your brain cells aren't going to work as well as they should. So you might have an excess stress response. Your brain might fire things that aren't supposed to be necessarily, and your heart might race. You might have a stress response, on and on and on again. But your brain just can't work optimally, and your nerves can't work optimally unless you have optimum levels of magnesium. Digestion also requires magnesium. You can't move your bowels if you don't have enough magnesium. 325 at least enzyme processes in the body. That might sound a little confusing, but what it means is we eat food. We get protein and fats and vitamins and minerals. Those things that we eat, there's very few chemicals that we really need to eat, essentially. We have to convert those into thousands and thousands of other chemicals in our body. Almost every one of those processes requires magnesium to make that happen so that we can turn food into the chemicals that our body uses on a daily basis or on a every single second or millisecond. We have to make those conversions. And we know that it's required, and this ties back to the fat loss. Magnesium is required in at least 2 places to convert calories, either from body fat or from food, into energy.
So that's where I kind of teased earlier about people who are trying to fit in the bathing suit from last year, excuse me, or having trouble looking the way they want, and they're putting in all these exercise and eating efforts, but if you're not getting enough magnesium to create that transition or how would you say conversion?
Metabolism.
For the metabolism, then you're not going to get the benefit of fat
Right,
loss.
metabolism is converting calories into energy.
Yeah.
And then that energy, the molecule that is energy is called ATP.
Adenosine triphosphate, yeah.
For
that's
ATP
right.
to bind to your cell so your cell can use the energy, it also requires magnesium.
Yes, that
to
we've known.
bind to the cell.
Yeah.
It's a magnesium required process.
So you have all these muscle heads who may not realize that there's a lot of stress you put on your body when you work out really, really hard, especially when you work out as long as you do. And the muscle head thought is, let me have as much protein as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But what about all the other nutrients that complement the protein? And when I say complement, I don't mean directly, but complement the whole digestion and giving you energy and conversion of all of these nutrients that we need for the body just to work properly. How about if you had the proper nutrient balance, whether it be vitamin B or any of them, E or magnesium, you may get more repetitions.
Absolutely.
And if
You
you get
can't
more
contract a muscle without energy.
Right, you get more
impossible.
repetitions, you expend more calories, you lose more fat.
Right, and what I found with the guys that work out really hard, when they don't have enough magnesium, their soreness level is so much higher.
Yeah.
So much higher because the muscles can't relax properly afterwards.
Right.
So you take the proper magnesium, not only do you make better energy, you have a better workout, then you recover from the workout much more quickly as well. But it's not just muscle, George. It's how about making your lungs work properly so you can pull in enough oxygen? How about making your liver work so you can detoxify your body? How about your brain working? Your brain is the most metabolically active organ in your body. At rest, 40% of the calories you're burning is to run your brain because your brain runs everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So we need magnesium to make the energy proper that your brain can use to properly function.
Actually, Dr. Candace Pert might disagree with that. She might say that your brain doesn't run everything else, your body might run your brain. You have to. I
would agree with that.
I'm being detailed here.
100% agree with that.
Technical.
The movement of your body, everything signals to the brain to make the brain work.
Right.
The brain then fires down to make
Right.
everything in the body work properly. It's a back and forth.
Have you
control
looked into that book, by the way? I told you it's my new favorite book. I finished it. The Molecules of Emotion.
I don't know if I've read that one or not.
It came out in '97, I believe. But boy,
I've heard of it.
You talk about this lady who's a pioneer and how she was disrespected, and how she was respected and all of a sudden disrespected for taking what she felt and is thought of today as alternative therapies. You being a chiropractor, acupuncture, massage therapy, meditation, and she said how these should be complementary to conventional medicine and not be set aside and thought of as alternative. And when she began to do her research and come out with this information, the people who respected her started speaking poorly about her. So it's also an autobiography, and I was kind of bored with some of that, but because I wanted to get into the meat of what she spoke about. But she talks about the if you've got cancer, it's most likely psychosomatic. You brought it on by yourself. Psycho the mind, somatic is the body, right? Soma is the body.
What if you get toxic exposure to benzene?
No, what she's saying is you're a person who's bringing on disease yourself by your thought process. And she goes about it how you do get exposed to certain toxic people or substances or certain positions you take in life, job or whatever, because of your thought process about yourself. But it gets much, much deeper than that. And she talks about peptides and ligands and receptors and how all of that works. And she has these goofy little diagrams. And I really enjoyed the book, Molecules of Emotion, if anybody's interested. But moving forward, one of the things I want you to do, did you finish that point, by the way?
Almost.
Oh, go ahead and finish it.
Magnesium's an electrolyte. People often think of sodium and potassium. Magnesium is crucial. It pulls water into the cells where it's supposed to be, inside the cell.
Right.
Sodium resides outside the cell. Magnesium's inside the cell. That's where you want the water, so you got to have magnesium.
Let's not go further on that one for a moment. Let's just stick with that. People who fly on a plane, when they finish, when they land, they'll find that their ring is tighter. That's that extracellular water. Right. If you have table salt and you're feeling a little puffy, that's extracellular water.
Yeah.
That's not healthy. Water
That's
inside the cell that
Right.
you're speaking of is healthy, and it's needed for the body to function properly. And I don't know if people don't appreciate that or just don't recognize that having the proper salt, which would be sea salt, one that's truly sea salt, not a white sea salt that's been stripped, will not give you extracellular water. It'll give you the intracellular water, right? Like the magnesium will benefit you. So just so people can paint a picture of the difference of which one is healthy and which one isn't, and why that may or may not happen.
Yeah, think of extracellular. The outside cell water, that's puffiness. And inside the cell is the stuff inside your cells so that all of your chemistry can take place properly. Back in chemistry class, you might have thought of taking two compounds that were dry powders the two compounds should react. You mix the dry powders together, not much reaction. Separately, you take those two powders, put them in water individually, and then mix the liquids together. They react violently. It's because the molecules can move around and find the best way to bind with each other and cause a chemical reaction. If they're dry, they can't move around. So the water allows our chemistry to move around. So the hormones and neurotransmitters and all of the other things that we talked about can work properly. It helps the biochemistry function in our body. Without that, our body
that's
can't
a good
function
analogy.
properly.
I like that.
Now, also, we hear about acidity way too much, right? How an acidic body makes us sick.
And let's talk about real fast. It's making you being acidic as a person who lives in that toxic environment. You either smoke cigarettes, you eat fried food, you don't have enough vegetables, you're dealing with chronic stress. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you don't do a cleanse, you're toxic. I don't care what kind of cleanse you do. Mm-hmm. So you're acidic, and if you're acidic, you create inflammation. So go ahead.
There you go. So magnesium is one of those things that can help buffer your pH. It's oftentimes a lack of certain positive charged minerals, and magnesium is in fact a positive charged mineral. So that's one of the things you can use to bring your pH back to more of a neutral status.
Coming up next, what I want to do is discuss food sources of magnesium. We'll get into supplements after that, but what are the food sources? Someone says, you know what, you guys are always talking about supplements. I don't want to buy any more supplements. I just want to eat the food. Good. I'll give those to you coming up next at 7:24, Sports Radio 1310 The Ticket. 7:30, welcome back to the Train Station Fitness Show. Join Tom Gribble today at the North Texas Beer Festival from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Irving Convention Center. Whether you're a total beer nerd or just want to sample dozens of beers from brewers around the world, attend free home brewing classes and listen to great music live. To purchase tickets, go to northtexasbeerfestival.com. On the show with me today is Dr. Jeremy Webster. We're talking about a nutrient that everybody needs. Not only do we need it, but everyone will need maybe different amounts due to their deficiency, and that may change later. We'll find out the amount you need, the type you need, because you have different type of magnesium brands also that you need. Is one better than another? One of the things I left you with is food sources of magnesium and the importance of that. Of magnesium. Webster talked about the deficiencies and the benefits of it. But here's some food sources. I'll run through them fast. And if you want to revisit this, because I'm going to go through it fast, you can go to Facebook, enter George DeJohn, and you'll see the show that'll be loaded today sometime. Or go to YouTube. I have a new channel, 21 Day Body Makeover COM, C-O-M, because the other one was deleted by accident. And here we go moving forward. So the foods, I'll run through them, that are high in magnesium: halibut, tuna, make a note on tuna by the way, artichoke, banana, figs that are dried, barley, buckwheat, wheat flour, whole.
No, wait, I got to comment on that.
Before you do that,
okay,
because we're going to comment on all the negative ones.
Okay.
That's the way I want to go through this. Dairy is milk, condensed, canned, yogurt, low fat, tofu, soy milk, almonds, Brazil nuts, cashews, pine nuts, artichokes, beans of all different types, pumpkin canned, soybeans, spinach cooked, squash, sweet potatoes, tomato paste. There's a couple of more, but I wanted to run through them in case this is either part of your diet or you wanted to implement into your diet. Now, I've got a problem with some of them also, and where I'm going with this is, just because you hear about a supplement's benefits and why we absolutely must have it, and even its food source, doesn't mean that you'll gain those benefits from the supplement or the nutrient. If we tell you that you may be able to lose fat by having a proper amount of magnesium, and you don't want to have a supplement, but you're having bananas and dried figs and wheat, aren't you going to gain fat? What does that have to do with magnesium?
Absolutely.
So you see where I'm going?
Yeah, you're consuming way too much sugar, first of all. We know that. Wheat turns into sugar. Bananas and figs are high in fructose, which is the worst type of sugar.
Right.
That's number one, George. More importantly, wheat and all other grains have a lot of magnesium in them, but they also have a type of fiber called phytates. And that absorbs and holds on to magnesium, kind of like a claw.
Huh.
It binds it and doesn't allow your body to absorb that magnesium at all. And in fact, it has so much of this phytate that it will rob your body of magnesium on its way out. So it depletes
just by having wheat.
Yeah.
So someone's going to go to the store.
Or other grains.
Somebody's going to go to the store, a sandwich place, and they say, do you want wheat or white bread? Do you have the white bread?
No, white bread is wheat bread.
I know. It's the same thing.
It's just refined.
That's my point.
Yeah.
They're both refined. They're both the same thing. One's darker in color. There's no difference. Now, if you have whole wheat bread, hold on, Dr. Webster, whole wheat is good for you because it's the first ingredient.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I know.
That's what I'm saying. Is
You get my
it will
point.
bind up. It will remove magnesium from your body rather than release the magnesium so you can absorb it. So
I want
it's
people to understand
Good.
that just because it says whole wheat doesn't matter. It's the same thing when it comes to the disadvantages of having bread in general.
Okay.
Right. So my point being made, if you have some of the foods that are high in magnesium you want because you like the taste, dried figs, bananas, well, dried figs are for 90-year-old people, but anyway. Wheat flour, I don't know any person our age who's eating dry figs, unless it's a baby. Tofu, soy milk. If you go to westonaprice.org, WESTONA price.org, you can click on all about soy products and the dangers of soy and read the research. You'll be there for about a week reading it. And you can recognize how soy is not in the best interest of your health. So what is my point about all of this? Eat some of these things, but know what you're eating that is good for you and that's not good for you. And certain things are not going to give you the benefits you're looking for. Moving forward.
Let's talk about the dairy real quick.
Go ahead.
Dairy has some magnesium, yes, but it has a lot more calcium. Magnesium and calcium need to be pretty much in balance as far as our amount that we consume. To modern Paleolithic man, ancient man, caveman, ate about a 1-to-1, pretty close to a 1-to-1 ratio of magnesium to calcium. That's about what we really need. We're eating now, well, milk has about 1-to-7 ratio. Way too much calcium and also way too much phosphorus as compared to the magnesium.
Well,
So
hold on.
I wouldn't recognize
I want
it
to
as
get into this,
magnesium.
what you're saying right now. Someone's going to say, hold on. I need magnesium I need calcium for my bones. I need milk. Talk about the calcium in
Right,
milk.
but there's also way too much phosphorus. Phosphorus causes you to pull the calcium out of your bones rather than put the calcium into your bones.
And people need to know that. You don't gain the calcium from milk that you think you do. It's a
Right.
marketing promotion.
Right, and the more milk you drink, the higher your risk of hip fractures. That's been proven in a Harvard study. The women who drank the most milk have the most fractures, not the least.
Now, why hip? Because they've fallen? Couldn't
Well,
it be elbow,
That's
wrist,
going to be
shoulder?
Of course, it's going to be all types.
Exactly.
But that's specifically what they were measuring is the incident because hip fractures are so dangerous. That's what they
Right.
were measuring in this particular study.
Will you do me a favor and get into something I think people would be, and I know you touched on this earlier, real compelled to hear with magnesium? Thyroid, its impact on thyroid, and also testosterone.
Okay, we learned briefly, I just went over this quickly, that magnesium is required for every single hormone to be produced in the body. Thyroid is a hormone. Without magnesium, George, your thyroid gland can't produce thyroid hormone, period. So it's very, very possible that if you're low in thyroid, it's just a magnesium deficiency, period.
Isn't that amazing?
And there are so many other things it could be.
Haven't
We
people
know-
said that thyroid might be low iodine too, though?
Yeah, because the iodine's the building block.
Right.
Iodine's literally the bricks that thyroid hormone is made out of. If you have an iodine deficiency, you're probably going to be low in thyroid hormone. But if you have a magnesium deficiency, you could be low in, because magnesium is required for you to take that iodine and bind it to tyrosines to make it. It's not a piece of the hormone, it's required for the
This is
conversion of the
why
molecule.
when we do shows like this, and I'm glad you're saying that it's so important people recognize there isn't one supplement, one nutrient
No.
that will give you all of the benefits. It's this synergistic effect that happens in the body that we're not even aware of when we gain the benefit. Hence the reason of eating a balanced diet.
Right.
Right? I do juicing twice a week. We talked about it once before, and it's so important to do that so you get all the nutrients all at once. So they're working synergistically.
Right.
So go ahead. And I'm glad you brought that
Yeah,
up.
and I just want people to understand that having a symptom or a syndrome or a disease,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily have one single fix. You can't say I have low thyroid, therefore I need iodine. That's not the case.
Right.
Maybe you need vitamin D. Vitamin D is required to activate the hormone once you make it. You need selenium and you need zinc to activate the hormone as well. So it could be a whole number of things that could potentially be the cause. We need to figure out which one is the cause. Testosterone also, that's another hormone. You might simply be deficient in magnesium so your body can't make that hormone properly. Or maybe you make enough testosterone, but you don't have enough magnesium for it to bind to the cells and for the testosterone to do any actual work. Again, there's a lot of other potential causes for this.
But why not deduce it, is what you're saying. Let's
Right.
put it in the mix, see how it works, wait a week, and see the changes that happen. If you don't recognize any changes, and this is one of the things that's real important for people to do, I think, if you're going to implement any of the things that we're discussing, there's something we call symptom amnesia. You're familiar with it, right?
Oh yeah.
So let's say you do my cleanse, and you get all these benefits from it, some fat loss, and you're sleeping better and feeling great. After the 21 days, yeah, you're feeling good, but if you begin to go back to an old way of eating, you'll forget the symptoms that you experienced, which made you start this process in the first place. And someone asks, well, what did you have before you did the cleanse? Or any nutrient, I don't care what it is. And you may forget or only remember a couple of them. Mm-hmm. So it's important to write down in a journal everything you're experiencing and why you're about to start whatever the protocol is.
Right.
Supplements, medication, I don't care what it is.
As I've gone on with my practice, people think I would become more and more technical, more and more advanced. What I've become is more and more simplified in my approach. What I've found is, yes, everybody's unique, but somebody might come in and they might have 30 different symptoms to start out with. Right. And what I tell them is, let's start you on basics. Let's make sure you have plenty of magnesium, plenty of vitamin D, plenty of your B vitamins, basic things. Let's get you exercising right, eating right, and then let's talk in a couple months. And when they come back and talk to me, now they only have 3 or 4 symptoms. And I say, okay, 3 or 4 symptoms, now we can deal directly with those.
But don't they have trouble believing that?
Well, I come back and I say, do you still have this? Do you still have that? Do you still have that? I say, no, all those are fixed. Okay, now we kind of gotten to the root of it. It was just basic
Right.
things like maybe supplying extra minerals.
Right.
And it solved most of their problem. Now, they might still have a couple things that are bothering them, but now they're manageable. There are a couple things rather than dozens of things that we have to... No one wants to have 24 different nutrient formulas
Right.
to treat every single stupid symptom.
Well, you know what the takeaway to that is, if somebody listened to what you just said properly, if you will, is that it's a cheaper way to gain benefits. You don't have to have the most expensive treatment, whatever that is, or protocol. You can have the basics, which everyone needs anyway. I don't care if you're under stress or not.
That's why I start them out on basics.
Yeah,
we need it.
And I think from the standpoint of integrity for you and your business, you have set yourself apart from the rest because you said, hold on, there's one of these analysis paralysis things that come into play. I know so much. Where do I start with someone? And if you're going to start, let's start with the basics. And if you start with the basics, then you have the foundation, the building blocks to go deeper.
The body works so well when you provide the basics. Just like I said,
right.
What if the person's perfectly healthy other than a single magnesium deficiency? They now can't produce any of their hormones, any of their neurotransmitters. They can't relax, they can't sleep, they can't digest, all of those things. So I could give them a formula for each one of those symptoms,
right.
So they have 12 different things, or they just get magnesium.
How fast can you talk about the Krebs cycle?
It's simply taking calories from food and body fat, basically priming the pump, turning those things so they're ready to make ATP or energy, and then you feed it through the electron transport, which is where you release the energy. So you're just converting calories into energy through the Krebs cycle and the electron transport. Magnesium is required in 2 of those places minimum, at least 2. B vitamins. We had a B vitamin show.
Yeah.
B vitamins are required in that Krebs cycle as well. But bottom line is, you can't convert your body fat into energy to be burned unless you have enough magnesium and enough CoQ10 and enough B vitamins. And
CoQ10, now I didn't know that.
CoQ10 drives the electron transport. That's where you release the energy.
Huh.
The Krebs cycle primes it.
Right.
The CoQ10 in the electron transport releases it.
Huh.
I call CoQ10 the firing pin. The Krebs cycle is like the shell.
Yeah.
You got a lot of energy in a bullet, but unless you have the firing pin, all that, it's just sitting there.
Wasted.
So the firing pin releases it all, and you have this massive release of energy.
So it doesn't matter if you're 30 or if you're on a statin or not. You just need to take CoQ10. I know we make CoQ10.
We make CoQ10.
But is there a certain age where we need to take more of it? I always tell people about 30.
Yeah, we make CoQ10 real efficiently up till about 30 on most people. I think if you're healthy, it's going to be even longer than that.
Yeah.
But it will decline over time. If you take statin drugs, it declines rapidly because it ruins your ability to make CoQ10.
Isn't it amazing how in the beginning, how when people were taking statins, CoQ10 was not recognized as being beneficial,
especially in America.
Yeah, well, no kidding. And now all of a sudden, doctors are saying, "Oh, you got to have this," and they weren't telling you before. What else is it that they aren't telling you? We're not getting into that. Just moving forward. So coming up next, let's talk about the type of magnesium we need, because when someone sees magnesium on the shelf, they'll see several different types. Magnesium citrate, magnesium phosphate, just all different magnesiums.
Lots of different types. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are good for certain things.
That's right, that's important. And then also brands. Magnesium's cheap. Do we need the most expensive one? Can we buy the cheapest one? We'll talk with Dr. Webster coming up next about that. 745 Sports Radio 1310 The Ticket. Oh, we're back. 750 Sports Radio 1310 The Ticket. George D. Jones, Train Station Fitness Show. Guest in the studio, Dr. Jeremy Webster. You have any questions for him? You can give him a call, 972-735-0707. We're talking today about the benefits and importance of this little nutrient called magnesium. Now, if you're going to go to a store, which store do you go to? I don't know. It depends on which brands they have and the type of magnesium you're going to get. First, does brand matter?
Probably not brand.
Cost.
Probably not brand. Cost, also probably not. Magnesium, luckily, is a cheap thing.
Yeah.
It's a cheap supplement. Some are cheaper than others. Some are not so good. But it's mostly dependent on the form of magnesium, not necessarily the brand. Anybody can brand a high-quality product or a low-quality product for that matter. So it depends on the type. So you need to look back at the ingredient and read exactly the type of magnesium that's present. If it's magnesium oxide, that's a really, really common one. If you look in your multivitamins or even some cheap magnesium supplements, they'll use magnesium oxide. It's a terrible form of magnesium. We don't absorb
It won't
well.
say it on the front, it'll say it in the ingredients.
Right,
in the
in the
back.
ingredient. It'll just be magnesium on the front.
Right.
But in the ingredient list, it'll say magnesium oxide.
Right.
Terrible. We can't absorb it. We have to have adequate stomach acid or we won't get it at all. A good quality product would be like a magnesium chelate of some form. The chelate is spelled with a CH. Chelated mineral. What that means, and this just goes back to how we absorb magnesium from food, is we absorb magnesium from food best through products that are high in protein sources. You talked about all the different nuts and seeds and the halibut and the tuna and even in beef and chicken. You get a lot of those things because the magnesium is bound or chelated to protein or some piece of protein. And that's what we need to get our supplements from as well. So they need to be chelated to like a malic acid or a citrate or a glycinate. Those are my three favorite forms. They all have good things and maybe bad things, and certain ones can be used for certain applications, but those are good products.
Well, hold on. Now, let's say that again. Someone's going to go to the store, and they'll see magnesium citrate. That's what I take.
Right.
That's what you want. What's another one they see? Magnesium
glycinate. Glycinate's my favorite because it's the most highly absorbed. If you're taking magnesium because you think you have a magnesium deficiency and you're not making your hormones or your neurotransmitters or your muscles are too tense or you're sweating too much or your heart's racing too much and you're trying to get magnesium into your tissues, you absorb magnesium glycinate better than any other form, and your tissues, meaning the cells, take it up better than any other form. So that's my favorite for getting pure magnesium. Now magnesium citrate, that's the best form. You absorb it pretty well also.
Yeah.
But it's the best form if you have kidney stones or if you want to prevent kidney stones. So I like that. I use it. Some people like it because you get it in powder form and it tastes pretty good. And in some cases, you can take it in capsules as well. But sometimes people use citrate just as a default because they can mix it in with a smoothie. And then magnesium malate. Magnesium malate is a little bit more stimulating on the gut, so you can't take quite as much, so therefore you can't absorb as much. I don't like malate for people who really have a true magnesium depletion issue or deficiency. What I use magnesium malate for are the people who are, one, extremely constipated, or two, the people who need extra energy, because the malate component can also increase that Krebs cycle that we talked about. So that they can use the magnesium and the malate or malic acid to boost that Krebs cycle and get their energy production going. Someone with fibromyalgia, that's the perfect supplement for them. So there's your three that I like. The other things, the carbonate and the oxide, forget it.
All right, so brand is not necessarily a big deal. Cost isn't a big deal, but when we look at it, if it just says magnesium, what about one that says magnesium calcium? A guy doesn't really need that, right? When you see the mixture.
Right. In my opinion and in my practice, I don't give calcium at all. I say we have plenty of calcium in our diet. If you eat fruits and vegetables like you're supposed to, you're getting enough calcium.
Well, hold on one second. Did you hear what you just said?
I know.
Why did you say that?
Because in my practice, I make people eat fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, but that's
like
in
they're
your
supposed to.
practice. And people listening to the show don't even eat well or exercise at all. They just want to hear us banter.
Okay, if you
You
don't
know.
if you don't eat your fruits and vegetables like you're supposed to, you're probably eating a lot of cheese and dairy. So you're getting plenty of calcium from that. So
Okay.
we're getting plenty of calcium one way or another. Probably more calcium than we really need, and it's throwing the calcium and magnesium balance off. So I usually say no with the calcium. Let's take the vitamin D and the vitamin K so that we properly absorb and utilize our calcium. That's more important. And the magnesium, so we have balance. It's not about the amount of calcium that we consume, because we consume more calcium than any nation on earth right now. In
Oh,
America.
wow.
In America, we consume more calcium, and we also have the highest incidence of osteoporosis. So it's not about about consuming calcium.
Yeah.
It's about using it and balancing it with these other minerals and other vitamins.
Right.
So-
Creating balance.
Right.
Dave, you T-box around? Live? Maybe not.
Maybe not. Let me just mention this. We didn't talk about this enough, but sleep requires magnesium for several different things. First of all, it allows your muscles to relax.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about, and this is really important? The amount of magnesium for someone to
Oh,
take.
okay.
Do that.
Different for everybody.
I
Some
know.
people take one or two. Some
one or
people
two
take
what?
one or two capsules.
Yeah,
If you
but what's the amount?
No, it's just dependent on whatever you buy. You need to figure out what dose works for you based on this. Start with 1 or 2 per day. Keep on that dose for 3 or 4 days, and then gradually increase by 1 capsule per day. Increase to where you have normal, and by that I mean 2 to 3 full bowel movements every day. If you get to the point where you have diarrhea, you need to back off. That's too much magnesium. Some people only need 1 or 2 per day capsules. Other people need as many. I have a patient that takes 12 a day.
Oh my
Just because
God.
she's so depleted. And after a while, she starts backing off from
Yeah.
there. But that's what she needs now.
When you back off, if someone's, let's say someone gets to 800 milligrams per day, they all of a sudden they have diarrhea. Do they back off by 200 milligrams?
No, just back off by 1 capsule, and that should solve it. As long as you don't.
But the capsules are different values.
As long as you do what I said and go up by 1 capsule every 3 or 4 days,
Right.
you won't hit diarrhea unless you're only 1 capsule over the limit.
I see.
So just back off by 1. If that fixes the problem, stay there. If you need to back off 1 more capsule, do so.
Right.
And that's it.
Okay. I take between 600 and 800 milligrams a day.
I take about 300 to 500.
Right. I find that certain days I need more. Maybe once a week I'll take 800 milligrams.
And you take citrate and I take glycinate, so they're a
Right.
little bit different as far
Right.
as how much you absorb.
Right.
But,
So do you think
it's
if I changed to glycinate, I would need less?
No, not necessarily. You would have to just titrate to your levels and see how you tolerate
Right.
it. Because your gut tolerates glycinate a little bit different than citrate.
Right.
Everybody's different. You can get used to your form, and you're going to be just fine with the level that you take.
Does someone gain more benefit by doing glycinate? Even though I know that just seems like
Well,
each one of the three have different benefits.
They do. Glycinate, the glycine can be used
Right.
for detoxification in the liver.
Right.
So it can benefit that. You could, but like I said, if you really truly need as much magnesium as possible, glycinate's the best way to get as much magnesium into your system.
All right.
But if you don't just need massive amounts, citrate's a great form, as is magnesium malate. Malate does tend to stimulate the bowel pretty quickly though, so some people can't take more than 1 or 2